Hi there. Is it Abel?
Yes, hello Maureen, how are you?
Good. How are you doing, Abel?
Oh, fine, thanks for asking.
Have you been in my class before?
Yes, a couple of times, yes.
Mm-hmm. And where are you from?
From Argentina.
Oh, okay. I think I have two students named Abel from Argentina, unless you're the same one.
Maybe I have changed in my picture, so maybe it's a
Oh,
little
okay.
bit. Yes,
Before it was just you in your picture.
yes, exactly.
Oh, okay. Well, hi again. How are you?
Fine, thanks.
Did you have a nice day today?
Yes, a little busy, but yes. And now we are hoping that Argentina win the game
Mm-hmm. What time is the game today?
right now, but I'm suffering a little, so I try not to see the match.
What's going on? Do you have a cold?
No, no, suffering because of the team.
Oh, okay. Oh, so you took a break from watching?
Yes, I'm really overwhelmed with the World Cup.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Too many emotions.
Yes, and it's really silly because there is not. It's just soccer. It's not. But you know the people and the environment in general is very going very crazy. So I try not to get uh, contagions or
Like
influenced by.
contagion, yeah. You could say contagion, but you'd have to be kind of joking.
Yeah.
It's really just for diseases to say contagion. But
Okay.
yeah, you can say that the the emotions are contagious or infectious.
Okay.
But again, it's sort of as
Okay.
and let's see, we've got Michael here with us. Hi, Michael.
Hey Maureen, how are you?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, thank you.
And we've got a new student with us. We've got Christian. Hi, Christian.
Hello, nice to meet you.
Hi. Nice to meet you too. Where are you from, Christian?
I am a Chilean living in Sweden,
Mm-hmm.
studying English too.
Oh, wow. Are you learning Swedish? Oh, you.
uh, I live in the north of Sweden,
Mm-hmm.
near to Norway and
Mm-hmm.
Finland.
Mm-hmm.
But I am studying English too because it's so important around the world.
Mm-hmm. That's
I,
true.
yeah, I am staying here for that too because many people here speak English. I think it's
That's
normal.
that's what I've heard. I've never been to Sweden, but I'm hoping to go there in July because I'm going to Germany for a month,
Okay.
and my friend and I want to go to Stockholm for a few days.
Yeah, sure.
Mm-hmm.
It's beautiful. It's nice.
Have you been?
But yeah, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
twice, but it's my first time in the north because
Mm-hmm.
I am living in a tourist place. The name is Ore.
Oh, okay. I've never heard
It's,
of that
it's
before.
like that. It's like a tourist place, more famous for the ski
Uh-huh.
in a winter and downhill in the summer.
Oh, cool.
It's very interesting.
Are there lots of people there in the summertime?
Uh, Not done compared with the winter, but
Hmm.
many people to practice. It's a good season for enjoy too because we have a beautiful place. It's all green,
Hmm. Hmm.
big mountain. It's different to the winter, I think.
And the days are very long.
Yeah,
Very long.
never, never dark
Hmm.
night. It's
Hmm.
really strange. You need to put in your windows black, you know.
Hmm.
It's
Yeah,
really hard.
those are called blackout curtains.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
it's really hard thing.
I remember even in Berlin, because I used to live in Germany. In Berlin, the sun would set at 10 at night, and then it would be light again at 4. So you
Yeah,
need good curtains.
yeah. Here it's more hard. It's more
Mm-hmm.
hard because I lived 7 hours to the south of Stockholm.
Mm-hmm.
It's really. I live in the middle of Sweden now,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
but in the more south, you can find nothing.
Yeah, the more
Because it's
north.
a yeah, the more north because
Mm-hmm.
it's a very big country, but exists really few people living here.
Mm-hmm.
I think that live more trees that person.
More trees than people. Yeah. That's great. Well, welcome to my class. It's nice to have you here. And we've got Eduardo with us. Hi, Eduardo.
Hello, Maureen. How are you?
Good. How are you today?
I'm great. Thank you.
And we have another student. Unfortunately, I don't know how to say your name. I'm not sure if it's a Russian name, but um, our other student, how do you say your name? Is it Annik?
Alex.
Alex? Is that Alex? Okay.
Alex.
Sorry, I don't know. Is it what alphabet is that written in?
Russian.
Russian? Okay. Yes, obviously I cannot read Russian, but Alex, nice to meet you. Welcome.
Welcome. Well, thank you. Nice to meet you too, teacher. How are you?
So I'm great. I'm really excited for our class today because we're going to read a very interesting article on the tech industry. So hopefully everyone here is interested in technology. And here's the link to the article. You can see in the verb link chat, there's a link for you, and here it is in Google+. Okay. And we've got another student with us. Hi, Ravi. Are you there? Ravi? Okay, let's get started. I'm going to turn on my screen share so everyone can see the article as we are reading. So we're going to be reading this article together. You'll read aloud. We'll get a chance to work on pronunciation and vocabulary. And they also have some short videos, so you'll work on listening comprehension as well. Okay, so let's get started. Okay, this article is from a website called Lifehacker, which is a very interesting article, very interesting website that has articles, advice, news, basically a life hack, if you've never heard of that term, is an easier way of doing something. Okay, an easier way of doing something. It can be anything. That's called a life hack, and this is a very technology-centric term. So if you ever read anything in this article that you don't know the meaning of, please ask me or type it into the chat and we'll go over the meaning, all right? But how many of you have heard the term buzzword? Who knows what a buzzword is?
The word that is really popular.
Exactly. So it's a popular word, like
Trend.
a word from pop culture that is being used a lot in this moment. Okay. So buzzwords are words like twerking or apps. Those are buzzwords. They're used a lot in pop culture. Okay. So today's article is the biggest tech industry buzzwords defined for normal people. So this article is great because the intention is to explain some important buzzwords from the tech industry, from technology. So hopefully everyone here will learn some of these important English buzzwords. All right. Let's get started with reading. Let's start with Abel. Could you read the first section, please? And I'll make this a little bigger. Starting
Okay.
with the tech industry.
Okay, the tech industry loves catchy phrases, but the truth is that most of them either don't mean anything or they are just complicated ways to phrase simple ideas. With that in mind, let's dig into what things like the Internet of Things, or disruption means to us normal people. We'd already covered the most useful tech terms worth knowing, but it seems like every day we see articles mentioning a ton of nonsense marketing words and phrases. Some of these terms are useful, but most are just confusing. Let's demystify a few of the more common.
Okay, excellent. So words like simple can be difficult to pronounce because it looks like it should be simple, but imagine that it's spelled like this. Okay, that's how it's pronounced. There's a
Simple.
lot, yeah, there's a lot of words in English that end with this LE, but they're pronounced as though they end with EL. For example, you have little, okay? That's
Yeah.
pronounced like it's spelled this way, okay? So yeah,
Okay.
just be aware of that. That is something that comes from Old English. So it's sort of ancient history, and that's the reason we spell these words that way. Okay, is there anything in this section that wasn't familiar? For example, catchy phrases. What does that mean? Catchy phrases or catchy?
Some phrases that became sticky to you.
That's a good description. Phrases that stick to you or stick with you. You can remember them. They're sort of popular phrases. Okay, and you can see here he says we've already covered the most useful tech terms worth knowing. So if you're interested, you can click on that link, and after the class, you can read about tech terms worth knowing. I think it'd be really useful if you're interested at all in technology, especially working in technology in English. How about this word demystify? Does anyone know what that means?
Yes, it's to become more clear. A word that is demystifies a word that all the people don't know or think it's very complicated, and it's not.
That's
So
exactly right.
yes,
So
make more clear.
when something is mystifying, it's very confusing or unclear. So to demystify is to make something more clear. So in this lesson, we're going to make certain tech buzzwords more clear by demystifying them. Okay, and our first one is acqui-hire. Okay, acqui-hire. Has anyone heard this word before?
No.
Okay, great. Anyone else?
Two words in one, I suppose.
Yes, it's two words in one. Okay, Eduardo, why don't you read acqui-hire?
Okay, acqui-hire. At its most obvious, acqui-hire is a portmanteau of acquisition and hire, and means just that. In the world of technology, it's often used when one company buys another just to hire on talent. The New York Times described it like so. Companies like Facebook, Google, and Zynga are so hungry for the best talent that they are buying startups to get their founders and engineers, and then jettisoning jettisoning their products. So acqui-hire is when a big company buys another smaller company just to get the people who work there.
Okay, so it's very clear. It's when a big company buys a smaller company just to get the people, the engineers, the real talent. So portmanteau is a word we use in English that's actually a French word, and that's a word made from two. So acqui-hire is an example of a portmanteau. You take two really simple words like acquisition and hire and make it into a new word. This is a really common phrase. Well, slang words are often portmanteaus. Okay. And also you see portmanteaus when we talk about celebrities. For example, people say Brangelina when they mean Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie. That is a portmanteau of their two first names. Okay?
What
So,
about jettisoning and then
Uh-huh.
jettisoning. Yeah.
And then jettisoning. So jettisoning is to jettison is a very old verb that means to throw away or get rid of something. So it
Okay.
comes from actually back in the days of shipping and sailing around the world, the explorers, when their ship became very heavy, they had to throw something overboard, and that's called jettisoning. So getting rid of extra weight. And in this case, it means they buy the companies and then throw away their products because they only wanted the people, the talent. Okay, and we're going to skip watching this video because it comes from a TV show called Silicon Valley, and we're going to talk about it later in another example of a buzzword. Okay, any other questions about acquihire? Okay, next moving on to augmented reality. So it might be useful to know what augmented means. Augmented means changed or made. Sometimes it means made better, but usually it just means changed. Okay, so it means reality has been changed in some way. All right, and let's hear from Christian. Christian, could you read augmented reality, please?
Okay. Augmented reality is when you use a computer or phone to add computer generate information to the real world. Typically, this is an overlay on a camera screen. Think of it like having a video game style HUD up at the all time. When you point a camera at something, artificially information displays in real time in front of you. For example, someday you might have a car. You have a car window that makes it possible to see through over cars. You'll find plenty of examples of current apps and service with argument really right now, but fewer useful.
Okay, so I have a few things to explain here. There is an overlay on the camera screen, which means you see what the camera has, and then on top of that, there might be some writing or other information. So this part about the video game style, that's really not important. It just means that it's like looking at a TV screen when there's a video game because information is on the screen. So actually, this video is a really good explanation of what augmented reality looks like. So we're going to watch this video, but just know it's not important that you can read the writing on the screen. It's just to show you how augmented reality might look, okay? So don't worry if the writing is moving too quickly for you to read it. All right.
Hello.
Okay, so as you can see in that video, it shows the driver is looking at the windshield of the car, and there's also a small screen that shows him the view from in front of the bus. So it basically is looking through the bus. That's what augmented reality means. So when you think about things like Google Glass and how you'll look through your glasses to see the real world, and then information will appear on your Google Glasses, that is an example of augmented reality. So this is very futuristic stuff. Any questions about that? What do you think? Does it sound cool?
Yes, it's incredible and totally useful.
Yeah, it makes me think that before too long, our world is going to look just like it always looks in sci-fi movies.
That's right.
It really is starting to, and if you look at some old movies, it's like we have tablets and iPhones and Google Glass. It's crazy.
When
Okay?
I bought the Bill Gates book, The Road Ahead or something like that,
Uh-huh.
he talked about the tablets 10 years ago, and that was our day reality. That is our day reality.
Exactly. If you think about how much things have changed, it's really incredible. Okay, and next we're moving on to a term that some of you might have heard before called the cloud. How many of you have heard this term before, the cloud?
I think everybody.
Everybody? Good. Okay. So the cloud, in case you don't know, is explained in this video, but let's read this short description first. Let's hear from, let's see, Alex, could you read about the cloud?
Okay. The cloud is one of those obnoxious overused terms that hard to tell what exactly people are referring to, but at its core, the cloud is just the internet. It's when a bunch of computers get networked together and you can access that network from anywhere. For example, cloud storage refers to online storage like Dropbox, SkyDrive, or Google Drive. Storing all the data in the cloud just means it's available online so you can get it on multiple devices.
Excellent. Okay. Just a pronunciation note, this word networked is pronounced networked. It has one of those final T sounds on the end. Networked.
A teacher?
Yes?
I would like to know, for example, the things the cloud is just the internet. When you use just, for example, and I have another class when I reviewed it about the just when you speak, for example, in a past recently. Okay, uh, I just um, I just bought some clothes, for example. In this case, when you use just is because it's the clothes is means of work only in internet environment, no?
Yeah, that's actually a great question, Christian. How do we use the word just? Just can really have a few meanings. In one instance, it means only. The same
Yeah.
as only. So, for example, in this instance, the cloud is only the internet, simply the internet. So just can mean only or simply, or if you just, yeah, and then just in another instance, recently. For example, I just called my mom to ask her what's for dinner. So it just happened. recently. Okay, but it's one of those words that is really difficult because its meaning is dependent on the context always. And it's really a filler word that you could replace with lots of other words. In this case, it means the cloud is simply the internet.
Yeah.
Does that answer your
Okay.
question?
Yeah. Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks.
Yeah, in fact, I think we could do a whole class on the word just in English. It's used in tons of colloquial phrases. It's used in lots of different instances, and it's very common to use the word just.
Yeah, because that concept, the cloud, only works if you have internet.
Yes. Yeah, so it's the internet. It's practically the same thing.
Yeah.
So the cloud is this idea of storing information in the internet so you can access it from anywhere. It's really useful for people like me who work on the internet. In my classes, I have all the information in my Google Docs, so I can use it on my computer at home, at my computer at work. I can send links to my students for them to look at Google Docs. I'm sure some of you have seen in my other classes when we look at PowerPoint on Google Docs, or sometimes we use Google Docs to write stories together. It's really useful in my job. So I don't think we need to watch this video because it just explains what the cloud is, but I encourage everyone to watch it after class. Some of these videos might not be available in your country, so I'm trying to show the most important ones in our class today. Any questions about the cloud or cloud storage? All right. Abel says nope. Okay, next we've got crowdfunding. Who has not read yet? Let's hear from, let's see, Michael, have you read yet?
No.
Go ahead.
As the name implies, crowdfunding is when an inventor asks the public to fund a project. These projects range from comic books to apps. The idea is that you give someone money so they can finish a project. When it's done, you get a reward. This funding comes through services like Kickstarter or Indiegogo. The problem is that it's often difficult to gauge whether something is worth funding, but we've put together a guide if you need some help.
Okay, so it's often difficult to gauge.
Gauge?
To gauge means the same as to measure.
Okay.
Gauge, to measure. Then the other word was we put together a guide if you need some help. A guide tells you how to do it. Have any of you heard of Kickstarter or Indiegogo before?
No.
These are websites where you can start a project and you can say, hey, support this project. Our goal is $10,000. And then when people donate that money, when they reach their goal, they start making a product or they make a movie. So Kickstarter is really common for people who want to make things like documentaries, or they want to invent a new product for a problem that they have. So it's pretty cool. You can check it out and see if there's anything over there you want to fund. I was on Kickstarter recently. My friend started a Kickstarter for a magazine she wants to begin making. And let's see, and that's sourced by crowdfunding. So again, crowdfunding is actually a portmanteau of crowd and funding. So you take this idea of a large crowd of people are going to fund your project. It can be anything from comic books to apps, movies, magazines, a new product. It's really cool, actually. Okay, any questions about that one?
What means worth funding? Worth funding. Worth.
Oh, something is worth funding. It's when something is worth it, it has value. So if it's worth funding, it's a good thing to support. It has a value.
Okay.
So it's difficult to measure whether something is valuable or not, whether you should fund it or not. Is it worth it?
Yeah, sure. And I knew about the album of the artist,
Mm-hmm.
and he sent a message to the fans and
Mm-hmm.
say, "Do you want a new album for me?
Yeah.
I need a money for that for
Yes,
create the album."
yeah, he could do a Kickstarter. You want a new album from this band?
Yeah.
There might be a Kickstarter. And in fact, this video that you see here, it's an advertisement for a Kickstarter for a movie based on the TV show Veronica Mars. I'm not going to play it because the ad is very specific to the TV show. So if you've never seen the show, the ad does not make any sense. But it's to encourage people who were fans of the TV show Veronica Mars to fund a movie to be made. And in fact,
Okay.
they got the funding, and now a movie has been made based on this TV show. And it was all funded through Kickstarter. So after class, if you're interested, check out Kickstarter or Indiegogo and see if there's anything on there that looks interesting to you, and get a sense of how this crowdfunding works. Okay, and the next one is really interesting to me because I have to admit I don't fully understand it. Something called cryptocurrency, which is the buzzword, but the more commonly used term is Bitcoin. Have all of you heard of Bitcoin?
Sure.
Yeah.
Online,
Of course.
not online, virtual currency.
So we're all pretty internet savvy, since we're coming from different countries and meeting here on Verbling. But I still have to admit, I don't fully understand Bitcoin. I think I'm too used to using money and credit cards. So let's hear from Ravi, if you could please read about cryptocurrency. Ravi, are you there? I don't think your microphone is working. Let's hop back to Abel. Could you read about cryptocurrency, please?
Okay, teacher. Cryptocurrency is overly simple terms. It's basically internet money, the most popular form of which is Bitcoin. In more complicated terms, it's a decentralized digital currency. That means a network of users keep a public transaction ledger so everyone knows where people spend them, trade them, or move them. It still works like real money, but the transaction is publicly recorded for everyone to verify and impossible to counterfeit. If you are interested, we have a more in-depth explanation of Bitcoin here. That sounds interesting for me.
Yeah, so actually this video is an excellent way to describe Bitcoin. So we're going to watch that, and then I will answer any questions about the key terms in this section.
A Bitcoin is 1 unit of digital currency. It's internet money. Unlike dollars or euros or yen, Bitcoin is considered a decentralized currency. That means that a network of users control and verify transactions instead of a central authority like a bank or a government. It still works like real money. One person pays another person for goods and services. However, once money is exchanged, the record of the transaction is publicly recorded onto a ledger known as a blockchain. Other Bitcoin users, known as miners, verify the transactions in the blockchain. After a certain amount of transactions have been verified by a miner, that miner will receive newly minted Bitcoins for their work, and thus, new Bitcoins will be added into circulation. While there are currently more than 12 million bitcoins in circulation, the total amount of bitcoins that can ever be created is capped at 21 million. The creation rate is automatically halved every few years as more bitcoins are added into circulation. This system, modeled after gold mining, makes finding new bitcoins more rare as the number of available bitcoins reaches the 21 million cap. So, should you rush out and start converting all your money to bitcoins? Not necessarily. While a few websites such as Reddit, WordPress, and Overstock have begun accepting bitcoins, most major retailers have yet to take the plunge. Also, like any other commodity, the value of Bitcoin is only worth what people are willing to pay for it, and that value has fluctuated pretty wildly in the past couple of years. In April of 2011, the value of one Bitcoin was 75 cents. In December of 2013, that value reached as high as $1,200. To learn more about Bitcoins, check out Mashable's latest coverage. And don't forget to watch the other videos in our Mashable Explained series. And I think I'm going to go get some lunch now.
So this video comes from a series from a website called Mashable.com, and it's like one of those news and pop culture and technology websites. It might be really useful. I don't know if you'll be able to watch the videos. Sometimes YouTube videos are blocked in certain countries, but if you are interested, you can check it out, and they explain things in really simple terms. It's great practice of listening comprehension, and you can learn some new vocabulary as well. So that's the best explanation I think anyone could give of Bitcoin. I feel like we all know a lot more about it, but are there any words in the description that are unfamiliar to you?
Teacher, could you explain me the words Langer?
Sure. Let's see here. Where is that? Ledger?
Ledger, yeah.
Yeah, ledger. So a ledger is a public record of money, of really expenses. So, for example, if you had a restaurant, you would pay, you would write down the expenses you had to track the money going out and the money coming in, so that your accountant can make sure everything is legal, everything, you're not losing money. It's basically a record of what you have spent. And you can have, ledgers are for businesses, so it's a really business-specific term. Yes, as Abel says, the old accounting books. Just like when you hear about someone cooking the books, they are changing what's written in the ledger to steal money. So it's a very business-specific term, and in this case, of Bitcoin, they have a ledger that shows purchases that anyone can see. So that's how they prevent fraud with Bitcoin.
I understand. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. And it says this is publicly recorded for everyone to verify. To verify something is to make sure it's to verify something to make sure. And impossible to counterfeit. To counterfeit means to make fake money, which is not really too much of a problem anymore because people are always using credit cards for big purchases, but counterfeiting is still something that they have to be aware of for Bitcoin to make sure that it's impossible to do. And there's an article, a link to an article that explains more about Bitcoin if anyone's interested. I'm still a skeptic. I don't think we're all going to switch over to Bitcoin and get rid of our dollars and euros and yen. Okay, next we've got what I think is some really interesting. disruptive. Now, when they say disruptive, they really mean disruptive innovation or disruptive technology, which is explained in the video really well. So let's read the section and then watch the video. Let's see, Christian, could you read about disruptive technology?
Okay. Disruptive mean be the most overused term in the tech these days. In tech, the
Tech. Tech
in
like
tech,
technology.
yeah, in tech, the word marks when a piece of technology changes the landscape of an industry. This means either creates a new market by displacing an old one, or improve a product so spontaneity that the old version are barely recognizable. Historically, the term is for innovations like the Model T or the MP3. Nowadays, people use it to describe pretty much every app that does something slightly different, even through a calendar app that import your Facebook event isn't directly like the iPhone was disruptive.
Disruptive, good. So yes, it's this idea that this new technology is improving a product so exponentially. So exponentially is a mathematical term that means it's growing at such a large rate or expanding, improving at such a fast rate that we can't really measure it. So the old versions are barely recognizable. And they are saying this is the most overused term in tech these days. So they think it's a little bit overused, that not every new app is completely disruptive and changes the product so much that the old version is not useful. So let's watch this video and see if we can understand a bit more.
How does a small, young company beat an industry giant on its own turf? Through what Harvard Business School professor Clayton Christensen calls disruptive innovation. It works like this. Big players focus on sustaining innovation, upgrading existing products and services to attract higher-paying customers. But soon, they start to ignore all the regular customers who just want simple, low-cost alternatives. That's where the entrepreneurial company jumps in with that basic offering. The big guys stay focused on more profitable customers and begin to overserve, adding bells and whistles no one wants to pay for. Meanwhile, the disruptor improves its product to appeal to more people. By the time the incumbent notices, the disruptor has already started to take over the market. The classic example is the steel mini mills, which first produced low-quality rebar, then moved to sheet steel, stealing business from the large mills that had been dominant. More recent disruptors include car makers like Toyota and Hyundai, which launched with economy models, then added luxury features and brands. The only way for industry giants to fight back is by launching their own disruptive innovations. To succeed, they must treat the project as a separate unit with a different business model and growth expectations. Ask, what job do customers need to get done? Segment customers by job, not by product market size or demographics. And develop basic low-cost ways to get the job done. That's how Procter & Gamble came up with Crest White Strips, a cheap do-it-yourself alternative to an expensive dental service. Disruptive innovation creates new markets and reshapes existing ones. To achieve growth in a fast-changing world, you want to be a disruptor. Don't be disrupted.
Okay, so that's an explanation of disruptive technology. It's a little business-y, as they explain, but it basically means that they come up with this new product that changes everything. This is a phrase you hear a lot at technology conferences. this product is going to change everything. So there's a reason they think this word is overused, used too much. Okay, any questions about that section? All right, let's move on to gamification, which I think is a very interesting idea. I wish we had time to watch the video, but it's 20 minutes long, so we don't really have a chance to watch that now, but it is a TED Talk, so I think you can watch it at any point after class. So let's hear from, let's see, Eduardo, could you read about gamification?
Okay. Gamification seeks to turn everything you do into a game to incentivize you to do more. For example, an app might push you to complete your to-do list and give you a reward for doing so. The psychology behind it is a little iffy, but you'll still find a ton of examples of gamification in fitness, habits, and more.
Okay, so how many of you have heard of this idea before of gamification, where they take really simple things like exercise or your to-do list and make it into a game where you have to complete tasks and get a reward?
Well, I've seen that in some learning languages. There are some web pages that I'm trying to do so people not get bored and give up.
Absolutely, Eduardo. What's the one you're thinking of? Because I have one in mind.
I don't remember the name. I was watching two different, but I cannot remember right now the name.
Yeah, Abel has the one in mind that I'm thinking of, Duolingo, which is, in my opinion, a really great website. If you're starting to learn a language, you can go on Duolingo and you can learn from the very beginning. I used it a lot when I was studying French to begin with vocabulary and grammar, and it's completely free. It turns it into a bit of a game where you get points and you have lives, these little hearts that you lose if you get a question wrong, and you also can set goals for yourself and kind of compete with your friends. I highly recommend Duolingo if you are just starting to learn a language. I'm not sure it's very useful if you're intermediate or advanced. I think it's better to do to read and speak more at that level. But if you're just starting out, and it's definitely an excellent example of gamification. So when it says the psychology behind it is a little iffy, iffy is a slang word. So people are not sure if the psychology behind it is legitimate, if it's real, basically. So iffy is a slang word that can kind of have a few different meanings, but it just means when you're not sure about something.
There is no proof, no?
Yeah, there's no proof behind it. And a person can be a little iffy, like, for example, my friend says, hey, are you going to Claire's party? I'll say, I'm a little iffy on it. I don't know yet.
Yeah, not certain, doubtful.
Not certain, exactly. Yeah, so it's not proven or certain. In this case, they don't know if the psychology behind it is really true or real.
Yeah,
Okay.
like you say, I think it's interesting to start a new thing, like a new language or anything. So it's like a game. So it's not overwhelming. You go step by step like a game, and yeah, maybe you can introduce in whatever you are learning. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's they say that it's really useful for people to have small goals. For example, I'm starting a new habit. I'm trying to floss my teeth every night before I go to bed. So I started sort of my own gamification of flossing by, if I floss my teeth before I go to bed, I draw a little star on that day on my calendar. And I can look at my calendar and see how many days in a row have I completed my goal of picking up this new habit of flossing. And I have to say, it's working for me. I like to see those little stars on my calendar and know that I'm working on a new habit. Okay, any questions about anything this gamification explanation? Okay, moving on to the Internet of Things. Okay, let's hear from Alex. Could you read about the Internet of Things, please?
Okay. When you see the words Internet of Things, it's referring to objects we are not used to seeing have Internet access with Internet access. This might be thermostats, fridges, coffee pots, and whatever else someone decides to stuff a Wi-Fi card into. The Internet of Things is going to change everything. We will just have to wait and see what happens.
Okay, so it means adding Wi-Fi or internet to all these simple everyday objects. So this video here is an advertisement for a thermostat that learns about your body temperature in your house, and it adjusts and learns when you're away, and it will, well, I mean, I'll show you the video, but I kind of want to move on to the next subject. So if you want to watch that ad, you can see what they mean by the Internet of Things. And I don't need the Internet of Things, but I want one of those coffee pots that starts brewing at a certain time. It has an alarm clock, and it starts brewing so that every day when I wake up, my coffee is already brewed. That sounds good to me. Any questions about the Internet of Things?
Yes, it's strange that it doesn't exist a word, just a word, not the Internet of Things. You know, for example, we use here in Spain a word for what all this wireless thing in a house, like you said, and we use domotica. So it's just one word. It's home or automation or something like that. Why
Yeah.
for the Internet of Things is long?
Yeah, I know, you're right. I think the other thing that people say is smart. So, for example, if you said a smart thermostat, I would know you meant a thermostat that has that learns, for example, in the video, it learns when you're home. So a smart fridge, I would assume that keeps the vegetables at a different temperature than the eggs, for example. Or a smart coffee pot would know that I like the coffee temperature to be exactly, I don't know, this degree. So I think we do use smart, like smartphone, obviously, but the Internet of Things, I think, refers to more of the concept that everything will have internet before too long. Ooh, it's like there used to be this movie for kids called Smart House, where this boy lived in a house that was a smart house. Everything was internet, and it was really cool. But it's definitely a kids movie. It's starting to come through. Okay, and well, before we run out of time, this very important term, we've got startup. I'm sure most of you have heard this term before. I live in California, so I know what a startup is because most of them are based here in California, where we have the tech industry. So let's see. Eduardo, could you read about startups, please?
Yes, startup. A startup is a new business. That's it. In the tech industry, a startup may not ever even make anything. It might just be a simple piece of intellectual property that gets sold off before it's even used. The word startup is also becoming an increasingly negative term describing a culture of young entrepreneurs who start companies and at a rate that rivals the dot-com era. Rivals, no? It's a verb, yeah.
Rivals, yeah. So
Rivals. Yeah.
rival is a to rival means
Like compete, no?
But you can also be a.
Yeah, when you are writing, we cannot hear you, Maureen.
Oh, thanks for the tip. I didn't know that. A rival is someone or a team that you compete with. So, for example, well, like today, there's the Argentina game. Who's Argentina playing?
I don't know who. Yeah.
Abel, do you know? Oh, with Nigeria? Yeah. So they are, in this case, they're probably not rivals because that means they always kind of fight with each other. They're always competing against each other. But sometimes like countries will be rivals with each other. Like for example, Costa Rica and Nicaragua, they're kind of rivals with each other. And a lot of universities have a rival that is very, they're very competitive with. Okay, so the startup, a new business in the tech industry, it's specifically in the tech industry, I think. It's used a lot more often in the tech industry. And basically, these startups, everyone is trying to create the next big thing, the next Google or the next Facebook, basically. And a lot of them are making lots of money, and that's where the negative association comes from, where they think these young entrepreneurs, young people with too much money, start to become sort of spoiled, I would say. If you've never heard that term before, it means they are very rich and they think that the world kind of owes them something. So this clip that we have here, I wish I had time to show it. That's from that same TV show, Silicon Valley, and it's about these young men who create some new technology, and they begin their startup, and they don't really know what they're doing. Let me see. There's a few. Yeah, I guess there's a few more terms you could go over on your own time, but let me just end things there because we don't really have enough time to go over quantified self. And there's a video you can watch which is really interesting. It relates to this idea that we can use technology to find out more information about ourselves. And then wearables are related to things like Google Glass and smartwatches, or if you've ever seen a GoPro camera. So I suggest that you take a look at this article to finish it. And also, if you enjoyed this article, then maybe check out more things on Lifehacker. And thank you all so much for coming to my class.
Okay, thank you, Maureen.
Thanks a lot. Bye.
Teacher.
Bye.
Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.
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 You're welcome. Thanks.